Greetings, punks, goths, metalheads, herberts, herbetters, Martians and subterranean folk. How you all doing? My name's John and welcome aboard. Well, today I'm going to be doing an indoor video and I'm going to be talking about what alternative people were treated like in the 1980s and the 1990s by society in general. It's quite different to how we're treated these days, thankfully. So I'll get right into it. So what we'll do is I'll go right back to origins. For me, first getting into alternative stuff, before I was fixed into anything like punk or goth. When I was first getting into it, I mean, I'd always liked metal stuff like since I was like a little kid, and rock stuff, but I didn't take it that seriously. It was just like take it or leave it, but I liked it. But it wasn't until I was about, I'd say, the last year of school when I first started getting into stuff more. And first of all, funny enough, I was into like metal and rock music before anything else, and that was when I was about 15. Then I got more into punk as I got older, and then I was into punk for a long time till I was about 30. And from about 30 onwards, I started going more towards goth and getting into goth more. I was married to a goth for quite a long time, and yeah, so today's journey, I'm into goth music. I describe myself as a goth. So going back to that age of my last year at school, I was into bands like Iron Maiden, Motorhead, Guns N' Roses, and that kind of thing in general. I was listening to, the odd alternative band as well, but this is while I was still at school, and the treatment by everyone else when I was at school, most people were listening to mainstream pop or dance music, and because you listen to something that differs from the norm, you were treated as like freaks. And people like look at you funny, like, what you're listening to that for, you weirdo. And that was the general feeling at school towards people into different stuff. And this is just like rock and metal stuff, really. Nothing more than that. And, if you look different, if you had your hair a few inches longer than everyone else, you was classed as a proper freak, and like, you was like teased mercilessly. So there's a group of us people into like rock music and stuff that was different than the norm, and we hung around in a little group together, and we just sort of ignored all the sort of idiots making, snide comments at us. And we used to meet together at breaks, and we'd meet together after school, listening to music, swapping tapes of different albums, going to city centre, buying vinyl albums, with my paper round money. And it was pretty good, but we didn't really care about teasing that much because we thought they were idiots. We thought they were listening to really talentless, soulless pop garbage, basically. And we just thought they were idiots who didn't know what they were talking about. So yeah, we didn't really care. But we never got serious grief at school, just like teasing and name calling, get your hair cut and stuff like that, because everyone had a short back and sides haircut at the time. And that was like school life. Then I left school, I got into like punk more, so I started having my first sort of Mohican haircuts and dyeing it different types of colours. Like, it was spray cans at first, so I was like too young to know any better or to know how to dye it, so it was like green spray that you put in your hair. So I'd have it like that first in a mohawk, and I'd be wearing all my punk clothes that I made. And I think this is about the age of maybe 16 and a half, and I was going round like that, and society in general at the time, you was really classed as an outsider and a freak if you dressed like I did. And I got my nose pierced as well, and I think I got a tattoo when I was too young to, really. And people just looked at you weird, and when you're a youngster into alternative stuff, you get a lot more grief anyway. I don't know why that is. It's because people see like maybe you're young and a bit nervous and inexperienced, and you get name calling in the street a lot, people shouting stuff out of cars all the time. I mean, I still get that occasionally, but very rarely. But yeah, people shouting stuff out of cars, going into shops and being followed round by the security in shops, even though you wasn't stealing anything. It's just used deemed like some sort of criminal archetype because you was different. And that's how they treated you in pubs. A lot of pubs, they wouldn't serve us. They just say straight away, no punks. Or, you know, if you managed to get a pint off one of the bar staff and then the manager saw you, he'd like, finish your pint and go. We don't want your sort in there. And that's how it was. It was proper harsh. I'll tell a quick story. This one I've told before, but I'll tell it again for those of you who haven't heard it. We're all sat in the summer outside a pub on this like green area of grass, and there's a few of us locally, like a few local punks, a few local goths, and quite a few like people at rock and metal, and we used to meet up sometimes, walk down to the pub, and this goth guy goes into the pub, and it was like a scorching heat wave, and I was behind him, and he went to the bar and he said, can I just have a pint of I can't remember what he got, it might have been a pint of cider or something. And he said, no, we're not serving your sort in here. We don't want your sort of custom. Straight to his face, serious. This is what it was like. No smiling or, you know, just really blunt and miserable. And he goes, look, he goes, I tell you what, he goes, I don't even want alcohol. Just could I have a glass of water, please, because it's so hot? And they said, no, we're not serving you. You know, and that like thwarted my chances of getting a drink as well. So that's how it was like. It was that it's just, if you was alternative, if you dared to be different, because you've got to think it was something that was, it took quite a lot of courage, because you was treated, you were just fair game for people to shout stuff at you, shout mean stuff to you, or treat you in a bad way. And it was accepted in society. In society, that was seen as an okay norm. You know, let's go and bash the freaks. They deserve it for looking like that. You know, and that's how people treated you. And in shops and businesses, pubs, it was seen as perfectly acceptable to turn alternative people away, as like, you know, we don't want your sort here. And that was seen as okay. Crazy, it sounds crazy now and really discriminating, but it was, and that's what it was like. There were some pubs like in the city centre that were like frequented by students, and a lot of students were alternatives, so they were used to it and they wanted the custom. So the sort of student pubs, they were your sort of safest bet. And there were just some pubs with nice, broad-minded owners that treat you really fairly. And you know, there's a fair few of those as well, and you know, they just treat you like everyone else. I mean, they might look at you a bit, but they were wise enough, you know, and smart enough to realise, you know, we were just like everyone else, and you know, they were like nice little safe havens that we had. So I do remember this one time as well when we went into one of these pubs that were okay with alternative people going in. You know, we was having a few drinks and a chat in there. And there was this group of what I class as norm, as just your normal, you know, regular people. We called them townies at the time. And there's a group of those in, and they were like drunk, and we could hear them. They thought they were being quiet, but we could hear what they were saying. They were going, have you seen them lot over there? I bet they're on loads of drugs. They must be on drugs looking like that. And that was like another view. People thought you was drug addicts, or, you know, you must be on loads of drugs to dress the way you did, because people couldn't figure it out. And it was a brave thing in the 80s and 90s to be to be alternative, because you was identifying and you was loving the music and the genre, and you know, you wanted to dress like that. and that goes for like goths, punks, metalheads, or whatever. And you know, it did take a courage. It was scary going out on your own sometimes, especially when you're really young, say you're 16 and a half, like me when I first got into it. It was a bit scary going places on my own. Once there was a group of you, it was all right. And you know, where I lived, there's a few punks and mostly people into rock and metal, and there's a few goths as well, and we all used to sort of band together, and we'd like go to town for a night out to one of the alternative clubs together. You know, it was like safety in numbers, and you know, we'd go for walks sometimes, you know, for a few miles through a little bit of green belt to a pub, and it was safe that there was a little group of us, well, safer, that there was a little group of us doing that. And yeah, I mean, you get a little bit older, you don't get as nervous, you feel a bit more confident about going out. And what I'll describe for being alternative, you develop like this sort of really hard shell over yourself, and you basically ignore it. You learn to ignore people looking and staring. When you're nervous and you're first going out dressed as a goth or a punk as a, you know, 16 and a half or, you know, similar age, you sort of be really sensitive, looking to see, because you're at that age when you're sensitive anyway, and you know, you'll be taking everything on board if everyone's looking at you or what. But you develop this hard shell over a few years, and you just tend to, you blank it all out. You just like, after a while you pay no heed to it, and it doesn't even register because it happens so much that people look and stare that, you know, it becomes like nothing, and then you just don't pay any notice to it. I mean, you always need to pay attention a little bit in case like someone's going to come up behind you or someone's going to approach you, you know, and give you problems. But just for people looking and staring, you tend to close your mind off to it, and I guess it's like a survival mechanism, really. I think after a while you just learn what's fairly safe, like people just staring and looking, and just switch off to it. It's like now, I couldn't give a monkeys, but you know, I am 53, so I very rarely get issues or problems these days. More positive than negative these days. People giving me compliments and saying nice stuff. Which is so nice to what it was like in the 80s and 90s. Yeah. So even a little bit later, when I was more into my punk phase and I was living in shared punk houses and things like that, so there'd be a group of us, so you was constantly safer because there was always a group of you together. You know, if you go out to city centre and you meet up with others, there could be 30 or 40 of you. So we'd live in these, often in shared punk houses in the community, or we'd live in flats close together. It's like the safety in numbers, and I can remember back in the day, everything was called a mission whenever you went out the house in the 80s and 90s. It's like a couple of you might go, I'm going to go shop, does anyone else want to come shop? Seeing if you can get, you know, a few more to go together. And I'm going on a mission to the shops, or I'm going on a mission to city centre. And it was always called a mission because it was like a mission. It was potentially dangerous, as in, you know, people attacking you and stuff, people calling you names. For punk girls and alternative women, goth women, they can get a lot of negative attention, and they got some horrendous stuff said to them, really awful things, which you can probably imagine the sort of nature of it. And they had kind of a different sort of take on it a lot of the time, as well as the usual stuff. That had this like different take of really sexist stuff being hurled at them, and people thought it was perfectly acceptable. We're only punks. That's how they saw it. You know, we were like some kind of subhuman. So yeah, it was always going on a mission, and it was always safety in numbers going together. I laugh now, but I shouldn't really, because it wasn't funny at the time. There were a few times in the 80s when I was really young, like 16, 17, when I did get attacked by members of the public. If I was going out I was a bit young to be going out really, but I did, I'm not going to lie. So you go out for a night and, you know, I get attacked. People sometimes like normies or townies or trendies as we call them, they just attack you for being different because they had a skin full of beer. And, you know, first couple of times I didn't know what to do and I just sort of panicked. But after the first couple of times I started defending myself and fighting back, and luckily that's never happened since. So, you know, there's been times when it could have happened, but I've got ready to respond immediately and they can see that I'm going to respond, and they've always backed down. So bullying really, picking on youngsters who are alternative, but there's some horrible people in society and they can get even more horrible, you know, when they've been on a night out drinking. So yeah, so to conclude that, I'd say back in the 80s and 90s, it was mainly verbal stuff thrown at you, insults, degrading stuff, swearing, demeaning stuff, dehumanizing stuff. That's what was like dished out to you. Physical attacks were pretty rare. Like I said, I only had a few. Nowadays, they're, you know, a lot rarer still. And especially as you get a bit older, the older you get, I found sort of less of that sort of issue I've had, even with the verbal stuff. With people dishing it out, the older I've got, the less of that I get. And I don't really get it at all now. Yeah, I mean, sometimes when I'm on a hike or something, I'll say hello to some people and like 9 times out of 10 will say hi back, but get the odd one who like, they just sort of don't say anything. But that doesn't bother me, I can just laugh at that now. And there's a few really remote rural places I've been where, you know, people don't see many alternative people, and I had a farmer once really sort of like questioning me what I was doing, filming while I was walking myself. I was on a public footpath and he's like, just like following me for ages. It's actually on a track. I'd just come off a public footpath onto a public track, and he's like creeping behind me in his car, like going, what are you doing, what are you doing? I said, I'm filming, I'm doing a video for YouTube about walking. And he goes, and what? As I was up to something else. And I said, that's it. And he goes, oh right. He goes, well, we do have some eccentric folks sometimes. And he goes, which was really awful, the worst thing he said is, we had a black bloke up here a couple of years ago. I think he was trying to steal something. And I just thought, can't believe you've just said that, you know. But it gave me a little insight into his mindset, you know, so it helped me understand what sort of person he was more. But yeah, gave me a bad feeling after meeting him. He's an odd fella. Then I went into a rural pub once with a few mates, and you know, I was all in my goth stuff like I am nowadays. And when we walked in, they're like, oh look, here's the Halloween people. Which kind of didn't bother me that much because, you know, it was kind of said in a jokey way and it wasn't said with any malice or anything. But I imagine if there was someone who just got into it and they were a bit nervous, it might have bothered them, that sort of thing. But yeah, these days things are good. So where we are these days, as we are now, things are so much better for alternative people, whether you're punk, goth, or into metal, or you know, any of the other subcultures. Things, society accepts us far more better on a whole. You still get the odd, you know, the odd troublesome person, internet trolls and stuff like that more than anything. It's probably the worst. But they're sort of cowardly attacks, you know, they sort of hide behind faceless profiles. Sort of face-to-face stuff you don't really get these days, or very rarely in the UK anyway. And a lot of it is because a lot of campaigning was done for the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, and they went into schools. I've been doing it for years, going into schools, talking to people, educating people about alternative people, and that's really helped. And it's coming to mainstream society a bit. Like, you see people, you know, who aren't into alternative music, who are just into mainstream music, who have got like red hair or blue hair and loads of piercings and tattoos. And because it's crept more into acceptable mainstream society, it's had a knock-on effect of being, you know, making life easier for alternative people. But what I will say to all these sort of normies and trendies who have coloured hair and piercings nowadays and tattoos, we were the ones who started it out. We paved the way for you guys. We made it easy for you. So I would like to say a big thank you to all my recent subscribers. Cheers, guys. It means a lot. And for all you guys that have been subscribed for a while now, cheers. Really appreciate you sticking with me. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did enjoy watching this video or any of my other videos, don't forget to give us a like and a subscribe. It really helps grow the channel. And until the next video, don't forget, be different, stay weird, stay free. Bye now.